Okay, and just following up that, because I know, I mean, perhaps not the data center construction industry specifically, but in general, the construction industry is always telling us how expensive it is potentially to build sustainability into buildings. Is that, you know, without getting into politics too much, but is that a bit of a sort of nonsense, really? They just can't be bothered to get their brains around sustainability, or is there a possible cost angle to, you know, buildings, you know, building infrastructure that, as you say, has to be ready for, you know, possibly unknown sustainable technologies between now and 2050?
Yeah, I think the challenge I see is that our construction industry is quite traditional in its approach in that we put a budget together for the capital expenditure to build a building. It's going to cost X amount, and we work towards that in terms of delivering the building for that number. The reality is that if you look at the total cost of ownership of a building, 75% of the cost will sit in the operational expenditure, the operation of that building. And I think we need to design with operation in mind rather than just the capex aspect of it. So it's a bit of a mindset change. In the current model, I agree, it's very challenging to be able to build with sustainability in mind but if you can start to move some of that operational expenditure into the capital expenditure and reduce the cost of operations, then that challenge starts to dissipate some.
Okay, and that brings me perhaps neatly to the final question, which, when it comes to net zero, can we carry on this sort of what I'd characterize as a continual, gradual evolution to get there, or do we actually need, as I think perhaps you have alluded to, but you know, some real sort of revolutionary technologies, and everyone, whether it's private citizens to companies, the construction industry needs to almost rethink, you know, whether it's, you know, cutting down our foreign holidays, as people have explained, you know, whole lifestyle changes and business style changes. Is that what we really have to do to get there, or can we kind of bimble along making little changes here and there, and you know, in 30 years time, bingo, we've got where we need to be?
So yeah, look, for me, to achieve our net zero targets, we have to have a step change in the way we're working across all industries, the way we design, operate and manage our infrastructure, all the way down to the components that we use and the materials that we use within them, and the way that the businesses and the people within those businesses work and operate as well. We have to harness renewable power. We have to harness data and make intelligent, informed decisions on the back of that data that allows us to start to optimize and drive energy efficiency within our operations. It's interesting. There was a stat that I've shared previously around the greenhouse gas emissions that we saw reduced in 2020 during the pandemic. So globally, we saw a reduction of 6.8, I think it is the number of greenhouse gas emissions over that year. For us to hit the target of 1.5 degree, or controlling the heat at 1.5 degrees, we have to reduce our emissions by over 7% year over year between now and 2030. So that was a fundamental change during the 2020 when the pandemic hit us, but it still wasn't enough to get us to the level where we needed to be. So for me, it is a significant step change in terms of how we work and how we operate and how we interact as an industry. Data and electrification is going to be at the foremost point of both of them.
And I promise this is the final one. Do you, or how do you see the responsibility for that? As I say, every industry, even individuals, are kind of making changes in their lifestyles or business practices, etc. But do you think it is inevitable that legislation, government legislation, industry body standards, and etc. will have to come in to sort of accelerate what might be happening? It's self-regulation goes so far, but if we're going to make these step changes, there's going to have to be a piece of legislation. There's that, by this date, you will have to do this, or you will be in breach of whatever it is, and there will be consequences.
It's a combination. It's a combination of things, really, Phil. The regulation takes place across all industries, and ultimately, it's a good thing. But businesses need to be ready to both advise and to comply. There's a huge amount of knowledge that sits within our industry that we have to share more readily. I'm massively encouraged by that we have organisations like the Climate Neutral Data Centre Pact, bringing together the minds in our industry to solve some of these challenges and share some of the experiences that they've had. And then for us at Schneider Electric, bringing these industry first sustainability frameworks to the market, where we help them focus on energy, water, gas, and make improvements in all those spaces. It's going to be a partnership going forward, because no one organisation owns all the skills, and we have to work together in partnership as suppliers, as operators, as businesses in our own rights, as customers, to ultimately deliver against this industry defining challenge that we have today.
Okay, you've been very patient with me as always, and I really enjoyed chatting to you, Mark. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And yourself, Phil. Thank you.